What if I told you that almost all ancient civilizations point to a single lost land as the birthplace? From ancient Europe to Russia, across Mesopotamia into India, legends, stories and religions tell of an almost magical land in the far north as their origin, Hyperborea. In this video, the first part of a series covering every aspect of Hyperborea, I will tell you the story of this fabled realm of ancient times and decode the symbolism found in many cultures hinting at it. Hyperborea was said to be the spiritual and physical heart of ancient humanity, the capital of the Golden Age and predecessor to Atlantis, appearing as a paradise in surprisingly many stories and legends, but it's also a place shrouded in secrecy and wonder, which has fascinated mystics, explorers and philosophers alike for centuries. Now might be a good time to like and subscribe. We just passed 100 subscribers, which is phenomenal, and I'm very thankful for your support. First mentioned by its now familiar name in ancient Greek myths, it is described as a paradise located far to the north, beyond the reach of the north wind, the Boreas. The prefix hyper denotes that it lies even over, literally above Boreas, meaning Hyperborea must be a land above the north wind. But as we will see later, the Greeks were neither the first nor the only ones to describe and speak of such a land beyond the north. Hyperborea was believed to be a land of eternal spring, perpetual sunlight and inhabited by a tall and strong race of humans. With immense wisdom and possessing great, almost magical abilities, they were more than humans. Blissful and long-lived people in harmony and peace with nature and the gods. Their patron god was Apollo. Apollo in the Greek pantheon was the bringer of light, harmony and also creativity of life itself, but also of strength, youth and heroism, the ideal of Hyperborea. It was said that Apollo liked this land so much he used to stay there for most of the year, a land where the sun always shines and never sets and where people could not die unless they wanted to, as if overcome by sleep after a filling meal. The constant theme of the sun and mentioning that it never sets can only place it in the Arctic Circle, where the sun shines at least for half a year straight. But it was also mentioned as a place that is shielded from the rest of the world, either to protect themselves or to protect the outside from them. It was described as being encircled by an enormous chain of mountains, only broken up by a few intense streams of water in between. It was said to be immensely difficult, if not impossible, to reach. The Greek writer Pindar remarked,
"Neither by ship nor on foot could you find the marvelous road to the meeting place of the Hyperboreans."
This description, among others, hints at the idea that Hyperborea is a place that can't be reached by physical means anymore, but still with spiritual ones. But not just ancient Greeks spoke on the inaccessibility of the North Pole. Later tales of explorers reported that the currents north of Greenland were so strong that it turns ships into arrows, and if ships are not crushed into rocks by those currents, they will surely be sucked into the sea by them. The mentions of Hyperborea don't just end with antiquity, however. Did you know that Gerard Mercator, yes, the same Mercator behind the globe projection we still use to this day, made sure to include a land like Hyperborea in his very first world map in 5069? Mercator received accounts like the one mentioned before and others talking of a land beyond Greenland and incorporated these descriptions as he attempted to accurately depict a land at the North Pole on his first globe. This famous map, which came to be associated with Hyperborea the most, is Mercator's polar insert of 5069, firstly shown in his so-called Basel map. But not just Mercator included this land. On this map from 1492, the Ravenstein-Behem map, there's also land at the North Pole, sharing similar features and likely influencing Mercator. And this map from 5007 even mentions an island by the name of Hyperborea, surrounded by mountain chains split up by currents in between. Greenland is here. Above the annotation Bergi Extrema, which means the mountains at the edge or extreme mountains. To be clear, These weren't just any maps or globes. Explorers like Marco Polo and Christopher Columbus used them. They were the best maps of their time. But what makes Hyperborea truly fascinating is not just its place on ancient maps, but rather its place of spiritual importance for many people. This mix of physical and spiritual qualities is a recurring theme with Hyperborea. Because Hyperborea is more than just an unreachable mythical land, but more so symbolizes and marks a higher state of being, a spiritual peak of perfection, and as it turns out, one that many civilizations claim as the starting location, deeply associated with the spiritual history. Hyperborea was always regarded as a place that is higher and on top, not just literally as in location, but also figuratively as in a higher state of existence. So its placement of being above and beyond is also symbolic of what its inhabitants were, because the Hyperborean people were described as beings more than human, immortal, focusing on the spiritual, the transcendent, the beyond ordinary aspects of life. This special status made it synonymous with the so-called Golden Age, the best era on Earth to live in. Also called the Age of Being, the age where humans were living according to their true nature. This idea of Hyperborea or a place like Hyperborea is mentioned in so many diverse and independent stories and myths, just under different names, but all share the same features. The Irish mention the Tuatha De Danann, a race of supernatural beings or gods that arrived in Ireland from a place up north. A paradise called Tír na nÓg, a supernatural realm of everlasting youth, beauty, health and abundance. The ancient Bretons called it Avalon, a land of magic and power to the north of Britain, very similar to the Irish legend. The Norse called it Asgard, sitting atop Midgard. Asgard is often shown and described as being in the sky or at the top of the world, symbolizing a higher, more divine realm, the homeland of the gods. The Russians knew it as Bielovotie and Chanaidar, a hidden land in the north that can only be accessed by the spiritually pure. It is a place of eternal peace and wisdom. Also, here we have the theme again that it cannot be accessed by ordinary means. In Sumerian myths, Dilmun is a paradise island, again thought to be located to the north. It is described as a bright, pure land where gods lived and where no sickness nor death existed. In Tibetan Buddhism, Shambhala is a mystical kingdom hidden somewhere in the north too. It is a place of peace, happiness and spiritual enlightenment, seen as a place that is reachable, again, only for someone with the right intentions. The Hindu Vedas call it Paradesha or Aryavarsha, the land in the far north from which the Vedas, the oldest scriptures in the world, came from. The golden Mount Meru is at its center. In Hindu teachings, Mount Meru is considered to be the center of all physical, metaphysical and spiritual universes. In Zoroastrian tradition, the ancient Iranians had a place called Arianan Vaishya, the legendary homeland of the Aryan people and their faith, prominently incorporating the sun. It was regarded as the first of the good lands. Also in part 2, I will tell you about a very interesting story Zoroastrianism has of this place, something very unusual and unique that can help us place Hyperborea into a historical time frame. Now, and this is telling, the Inuits of Greenland and northern Canada have legends of coming from a fertile green land of perpetual sunshine still further in the north, which is also a valued place of spiritual importance for them. I would also be curious to hear what your culture's or religious version of Hyperborea is. Let me know in the comments, I read and reply to everyone. How can so many civilizations from vastly different regions and vastly different timelines too all point to the north as the center, giving it oddly specific yet similar features? Is it a collective shared memory of an ancestral homeland that used to exist but not anymore? Migration patterns of Indo-Europeans would support this. as it is established that all these cultures have a common ancestor in the Eurasian interior. Something that all these cultures and civilizations also have in common, sometimes more and sometimes less, is the focus of sun worship within the faiths and practices. For example, Stonehenge, which seems to have been a solar temple used to track important solar events. A similar function that the sun temples in places like India fulfill. India is a land that is one of the last to still be in touch with its ancient traditions, and in many cultures are numerous festivals and rituals centered around equinoxes. Because at the North Pole, something special happens regarding the equinoxes. The North Pole experiences one continuous day lasting from March to September, and one continuous night from September to March. This unusual pattern of daylight and darkness would have been crucial for the Hyperboreans, symbolizing their deep connection to the sun. The idea of constant sunshine or being blessed by the sun remained important for the descendants of Hyperborea. So, Hyperborea seems to have been a center at the North Pole, and one that many cultures draw their heritage from, either spiritually or physically, and one important enough to be mentioned again and again across many different cultures, giving it only their best of qualities. Hyperborea's presence in myths and maps reveals its deep and lasting impact on ancient and modern cultures too. But what does this mean spiritually? In part 2, we uncover Hyperborea's esoteric importance and its connection to Atlantis. I've also tried myself at creating a timeline to place Hyperborea within history too, using works by Julius Evola and René Guénon as reference point. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get more content like this and to know what happens next in the story of Hyperborea. If you want to support me, you can do so over at buymeacoffee.com/numinous_diamond. Even the free Euro tier helps immensely. And when part 2 is uploaded, you can click right here to continue the series.